Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us during National Nursing Week for today's important conversation on nurses' power to transform care with artificial intelligence. I'm Misty Forche, a director at the Canadian Nursing Association, and I'm very honored to welcome you on behalf of CNA. I'd like to begin today's session with a land acknowledgement. In Canada, we live, learn, and work on traditional Indigenous territories. We are all direct beneficiaries of policies of expulsion and assimilation of Indigenous peoples during and since the time of settlement and confederation. CNA acknowledges that the land upon which each of us is joining this meeting is and continues to be the home of diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. This acknowledgement is made with the recognition that nurses have a responsibility to learn the harsh and devastating impact that colonization has had on Indigenous peoples, past and present. We have a duty to respond to the calls to action of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. I do apologize for just having a bit of a glitch here with my slides. Again, my name is Misty Forche, and I am your moderator for today's session. We have a few little housekeeping participation instructions that we would like to note before we start and give you instruction on how to engage during today's session. Please feel free to use the Q&A function found at the bottom of your Zoom screen to ask questions at any time during the session. A recording of the session will also be available afterwards for any of those who may want to revisit the discussion or share it with their colleagues at a later date. We will also have live interpretation in French available throughout this session, and that video will also be uploaded at a later date for revisiting or to share it with your colleagues. As AI continues to rapidly integrate into healthcare, it's becoming increasingly important for nurses to engage with this technology. Today, we will be hearing from an inspiring healthcare leader and leading researcher in digital technology within healthcare. Nurses are more crucial than ever in this technological evolution, ensuring that AI is harnessed to enhance compassionate, evidence-based system transformation and care. We hope today's message will inspire and equip you with new ideas to leverage AI in your own practice. I'm delighted to now introduce our speaker, Tracy Reisling. She is the Associate Dean Innovation in the Faculty of Nursing at the University of Calgary. She's also the president-elect of us here at the Canadian Nursing Association and the past president of the Canadian Nursing Informatics Association. With a practice background in pediatric and public health nursing, Dr. Reisling has also had extensive experience in nursing education, curriculum development, and research. She currently leads a patient-oriented program of health and nursing informatics research, including study on AI, social media and misinformation, co-design, and the use of text messaging for wellness support. She is a passionate advocate for increased nursing engagement in the development, use, and evaluation of digital health solutions. We're so grateful to have you with us here today, Tracy, and I will turn it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Let me get my slides organized here. All right. I think we're ready to go. It's always nice when technology behaves itself. So it looks like it is from my end. So hopefully that's the case. And again, my thanks first and foremost to all of you who are taking time out of a very busy week. I'm firmly convinced now that all nurses actually need the week immediately following Nursing Week to recover from all of the great things that we engage in during this week. But thanks for taking the time today, or if you're listening at a future point. And my thanks to the CNA for providing an opportunity for us to have this really important, incredible conversation. Thanks also for the land acknowledgement. And I just wanted to add a note that normally I hail from the gorgeous territory of Treaty 7 and the Métis Nation District of Alberta, regions 5 and 6. Today, I have the privilege of being here in Ottawa in the lands of the Algonquin people. And I do really appreciate, especially when we're thinking about technology and digital health in future, to think how we are truly grounded in the knowledge of traditional Indigenous people and territories. Well, well, well. Guess who turned 205 this week? Monday. I don't know if that's hard to believe or easy to believe, but it did make my theme easy. So, in honor of Nursing Week 2025 and Nightingale's 205th, I decided the best way maybe to walk through, which can be a very complicated landscape, is to do a 5 by 5. So, I'm going to hit you with 5 areas, topic areas, and about 5 items in each today. And spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure, given the pace of AI, that we might hit over 5 in a couple of categories, but let's just go with it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start at the beginning, the foundations, always a good place, a good refresh. Even if there, as I'm sure there are other AI experts here in attendance today. So everyone can bear with me and contribute as we do a bit of AI 101. I'm going to talk about 5 transformative moments or, technologies, opportunities that we're seeing when it comes to the intersection of AI and nursing. 5 cautions, right? This is not a perfect technology by any stretch of the imagination. 5 resources, that's definitely one where there's more than 5, but definitely give you hopefully some things to take away today as you continue on your own AI journey and think about where it intersects with your area of nursing practice and what you're passionate about. And also 5 next steps. I think one of the most important things, as I had so much opportunity to talk to nurses about AI really around the world, is to think, I wonder if we should be done with the talking and more about the actioning. So I am going to try and leave us today with some opportunities that I hope you see as a call to really think about, what does actioning this technology look like for you, for your practice, for nursing? Okay, as promised, the foundations. I know you've got your reactions out there, and I did see them floating up earlier, some hearts. So maybe what I'm going to say is, when it comes to AI, is this an old technology or a new technology? So if we think it's an old technology, let's hit those hearts. And if you think it's a new technology, let me think what else is down there. Maybe the celebration. Ooh, that is a lot of hearts. A couple of the celebration markers. Okay. And now I might have just tricked y'all a little bit, and I really apologize for that, because the technology, honestly, by the time we get done this hour conversation, new tech AI technology will have come into existence that doesn't exist right in this moment. But the concept itself, I think, is actually the ultimate old dog, new trick kind of idea, because it has been since the 50s. 1950, if you hear people talk about the Turing test or about John McCarthy, right? This is an occurrence that happened in 1956, is how long we have been talking about artificial intelligence. It seems incredible. Come along this timeline with me and see that even your Roomba is over 20 years old, right? That we're several years deep already into our Chat GPT journey. In fact, we're almost 15 years now into life with Siri. So this is really incredible to think, first of all, about for how long these concepts have existed, but then also to see this accelerated pace of this technology. So we've been at it for a long time. So what can we say about artificial intelligence? Well, I think one of the best things to do is to really just go back to the basics. And I've actually had a couple of opportunities to have talks about AI with kids. And so this is actually not a definition that we use when we're, really trying to get down to its simplest form. What do we mean by AI? And honestly, we just mean the ability for a computer to think and learn. If we want to get a bit more complicated, right, we talk about data and the data drivers, big data and analytics and algorithms, and how those things drive this learning. And then, of course, we start to see and understand that artificial intelligence is really just an umbrella term under which all of these other complex, things are starting to emerge. things like machine learning and deep learning and neural networks. So this all fits under this big umbrella of AI. And as it goes along, it just gets more and more complicated. For example, we have the chat GPTs and other generative AI in large language models coming along, natural language processing, neural networks, as I noted. And this, umbrella or this, collection of science really starts to get quite complicated. So there's lots of different applications and lots of rapid growth. But actually, AI has some work to do for real, especially when we are thinking about the health system, because I got to tell you, it is not doing a lot of heavy lifting in our health systems as of yet. Now, that said, if you've seen me or I've been subjected to my conversations about AI before, you know that I like to walk through the types of artificial intelligence. And I like these robots because actually it really helps us to classify AI. Because right now, AI is classified either as weak or strong. Okay, which I find actually kind of rude, but I didn't make it up. The AI scientists did, so that's on them. So we are actually living in the era when we talk about AI capabilities of weak AI. That's where we're at. And strong AI, or sometimes called general AI or AGI, this is a future state. And then this super AI you see in the middle, this is like Will Smith, I, Robot, Star Trek, Singularity, Hive Mind kind of business, right? Nobody needs to go away from today losing any sleep that super AI is right around the corner. In fact, right now, despite some robust debate and thoughts, we're not even really at the point of general AI. So let's look at functionalities for a second, because that's kind of almost a better way to understand what does this all mean? What's, narrow AI, general AI? So let's put it into and classify it together with its functionality. So let's put the weak and the strong or the general back up. So when we talk about functionality, then we talk about AI being reactive. And this is a very narrow kind of AI. It does one thing really well. And honestly, if you've looked at your Netflix list of recommendations and thought to yourself, why would I want to watch that? Why does it even think I want to watch that? You know that sometimes even reactive AI that does one thing and so is supposed to do it really well makes some missteps, right? So chatbots and a lot of the algorithms that deliver our life, our AI life on a daily basis are reactive. Then we start to see limited memory. So this was an evolution of AI, really, and the things that started to give us Chat GPT, self-driving cars, virtual assistants. The darker blue, the theory of the mind and the self-aware, this is on that general AI and super AI side of things. And there's been some great conversation to start 2025 about whether or not Chat GPT is, achieving theory of the mind, whether or not it's, an intuitive, that it can learn and think and react exactly the way a human does. Spoiler alert, it certainly does not. And but there's some really, like I said, there's lots of interesting conversation about where we're at. But right now, and again, if you've seen me chat about this before, as this evolves, we've been evolving this work in our group. All nurses now recognizing this model, I hope. Anyway, it's a favorite of ours, Benner's novice to expert. But it actually becomes a really great way for us to understand where AI is at in its development. And where it is right here, right? It's on this line between, narrow or weak AI and limited memory AI. So how I like to think about it for nursing, especially in health systems, is that this technology is barely an advanced beginner. And it's actually a great fit, because what do we know about advanced beginners? Incredibly enthusiastic, rule oriented, right? Always back to the data. They also can use, some ongoing and consistent supervision. And honestly, that is exactly how I feel about where we're at in terms of independent AI and healthcare and nursing. And then there's this huge gulf that is going to have to be overcome, right? If we actually are expecting AI robots to take over and deliver this intuitive kind of nursing care, again, nobody needs to lose any sleep that their job is in jeopardy immediately from this kind of AI, because because that is going to be an incredibly hard bar to cross. All right. I can't leave AI foundations without talking about generative AI. It seems that's all we talk about someday in the AI world. This is, of course, ChatGPT and many other generative AI tools. And that's kind of what I want to point out to you actually is how many generative AI tools there are. And I'm going to try and highlight a couple for you today that I actually like a lot better than ChatGPT. But really, this slide is just to tell you that when it comes to generative AI, it's never about the top 21 tools. Immediately, it's about the 80 tools. And honestly, again, by the end of this time that we have together, probably 100, 150 tools. Every day, there are new tools. Every day, AI inserts itself into our lives. And I want you to stop and think now, where have you used AI today already? And maybe hit those hearts if you think, who thinks that they have already used or interacted with AI today? Ooh, thumbs up. I like that too. Fantastic. Okay, exactly. Because I'm very comforted to see this. Because one of the other points that I typically tend to make is that if you think you're not using AI, it's definitely using you. Okay, this is just how this technology is. It is infused into all of our systems. And increasingly more every single day. And that's why, as nurses, no matter what our areas of practice are, our interests, our research, our leadership, this is not a technology that we can afford to ignore. All right, we're going to hop through the 5 transformations. Starting to feel the time pressure already. So hopefully someone's helping me to keep an eye on it. If the foundation's moments did nothing else for you, it was meant to reassure you that this creation robot, as comforting as it looks, right, is not probably an immediate part of our future. I do not know why AI generates nurses in such a way, but we're going to see a few other prime examples of what that looks like as we go. All right. So let's actually talk about where we think AI is showing up. And this is a fantastic report, very recently released from a working group that Canada's Drug Agency put together. And I really like it. And so here's the high point. Here's the highlight. Their watch list. So they used this workshop and they ranked everything up and decided that the top 5 AI technologies from a Canadian healthcare lens are AI for note taking. So we're talking about scribes a lot here as well. AI tools that accelerate and optimize clinical training and education, disease both detection and treatment. So we're talking about things like clinical decision support and risk prediction, and then remote monitoring, which I actually think is going to be a huge win for nurses and for Canada with all of the rural and remote work that we do. And actually, I might also add that nurses do and lead. So here's some great kind of emerging technologies, transformational moments that could come in Canadian healthcare. But also, I love that immediately right after, what are the concerns? And we're going to get to AI cautions next. And you're going to see some of these things echoed when we get to our own caution list. Okay, so how does this actually look? I needed to translate this and provide you the list of where I thought these 5 things were being represented by actual nursing work and nursing engagement here in Canada. So nurses are engaged in AI scribe work. I just saw at a hackathon a few weeks ago, Canadian nurses who are working on an EHR automation startup using much more data capture and natural language processing. We've had some amazing education work, both in generative AI and competency work, the Quebec framework, healthcare AI. There's been some great conversation about how we build competencies, both for nurses who are in education and ongoing professional development competency building. There are nurses engaged in risk prediction. We have incredible genomics nurses. Shout out to the genomics nurses, those working in personalized care. There's a natural intersection, of course, between genomics and the massive amounts of data that takes and the potential for that to be accelerated by AI. Clinical decision support systems, again, nurses are being engaged in this work. not only clinical decision support, but one of the things that's not here is that administrative piece. So things like triage in the ER, and staffing and bed usage, and predicting of these kinds of things. And there's some really interesting Canadian projects that have nurses engaged there. And then again, for me, I think something that we could continue to really step into is that remote monitoring, not just for things like long-term care, but rural and primary care, and especially our most remote locations, and just thinking about the incredible opportunities for nurses to develop stronger connections to their rural and remote patients, increasing safety, increasing patient outcomes, increasing, patient access, but also their own comfort, right? Giving them an opportunity with more kind of hospital at home solutions, not to have to travel so much for this care. We are really, as the Internet of Things really takes off and intersects with AI, there's going to be incredible opportunities for patients to have more care in their own homes, in the comfort of their own communities. But this is where nursing voice is going to be really incredibly important. Okay, and then not within those five, nurses are also doing incredible work here in Canada on trust. How do nurses trust AI? What about patients? Data standards. Huge history of incredible data standard work here in Canada. Compassionate care, the RNAO, AMS. We have long been already engaged in discussions. Planetary health, the ethics of this. This is incredible work that nurses across the country are doing when it comes to AI. Now, one of the things you are, I think, honestly compelled to do if you're going to give a presentation on AI is try to use AI to do all of your work for you. Let me introduce you to Perplexity if you have not met. Perplexity is actually a tool that I always use in concert with ChatGPT. It's just another generative AI tool. But actually, in many ways, I prefer Perplexity, and I will show you why. So I asked Perplexity how Canadian nurses are using AI in 2025. And one of the amazing things about Perplexity is that the first thing it does, it gives you the list of resources that it used right off the top. And it actually provides the full reference list. And if there's any users of ChatGPT out there, you know very well that when ChatGPT struggles to feel like you're happy with it, right? One of its things that it'll do is it'll just create something that it feels that you will be happy with. And so, that can create something that's often called hallucination, or, it can be very unreliable in its referencing. In fact, I was speaking with ChatGPT just this morning and it gave me an answer. And then at the bottom, it asked, "Do you like this personality?" Yes, or with thumbs up or thumbs down. And I thought to myself, Chat GPT, you are more human every day. How very insecure of you. Do you like my personality? So honestly, this is making Chat GPT provide answers that sometimes can be less reliable. Perplexity seems less concerned about whether or not I like it. And so I give you this quick look at what it thought about how Canadian nurses are using AI. And I was actually really happy because aside from the great reference list, it did really echo the list that I created right out of my very own brain. So, that's always nice when you and AI can be in sync like that. It maybe emphasized a bit more of the personalized medicine, and I think that is an important topic for sure. Okay, I know we got to move. I know it. Here we go. Let me also introduce you to Dr. Mesko. If you don't follow, he's worth a follow on LinkedIn or in his other work. He's a medical futurist. Just late last month, end of April, he released this great look at AI use in healthcare. What I loved about this is he has this what's on the horizon, safe bet, handle with care, speculative and risky. So this is worth looking up on LinkedIn so you can really get his full interpretation of this. But you can see all of the different areas that are evolving in healthcare with AI, but then what really requires, right, some close monitoring and some ongoing observation. Sure, we've got wins in surgical planning and scheduling and ECG interpretation but even in wearables, but when it comes to mental health chatbots, right, and treatment plans, right, this still requires some heavy duty human intervention and oversight. But folks, just make no mistake, even when things are speculative and things are risky and we're not sure, this is a technology that is in motion and will take off in a transformative way for healthcare and for nursing, right? And it will change the way that we practice. I hope not like this. I don't know why this is free pick, a generative AI tool. No, I don't even want it to be this color. I don't know why. This is what it thinks robot nurses look like. But how about instead of this, whatever this terrifying future is, how about this, right? That AI is actually used to support nursing care, to free up time for nurses. One of the things that gets said frequently is that AI will give you more time for your patients. Well, actually, no. I would actually like AI to give you more time for you. And whether you choose to spend that with your patients, fantastic, but perhaps you use it to think about, right, development or how AI, how technology, will continue to influence your practice, do some learning, do some development. But again, I don't want us to think that we're going to use this technology to free you up to take on more work. I would like to stop that idea potentially right now. So, time. Okay, speaking of, we're going to keep moving. All right, it's time to move into the sad face portion. Yeah, great question. I will absolutely get the slides available for folks. So yeah, no worries there because I'll tell you right now, I'm keeping an eye on the clock and we're about to move into the rapid fire part of this presentation. But let's get through the sadness first and the cautions. Number one, I cannot stress enough is the environmental impact of this technology. This is very painful as a self-prescribed tech geek to have to tell you what you probably already know, which is that AI, especially the explosion of generative AI, is not that great for the planet. How not great? Well, Kate Crawford, AI guru, released, I think already back 2022, 2024, this alarming kind of call to action around how much energy, water, generative AI was consuming. And these stats off the top are actually older. So it used to be, right, that we would say that, well, if you use ChatGPT instead of Google, it's using 4 to 5 times the energy of that standard web search. But what happens when you search with Google now? The AI summary appears right at the top. So it's really hard to get away from the energy consumption of this technology. When they trained ChatGPT 4, it used 6% of the Iowa district's water source where the data center was located. There's these really terrifying demands about the power use and the water use of this technology. And then there's, things happen like DeepSeek comes along and it uses less energy and less, power. And we think, great. Or, we'd like to wait on nuclear fusion. And of course, AI can be used to solve environmental problems as well. However, as nurses who are responsible, right, for this holistic view of health, we can't just stand beside or behind AI and say, yep, this is the greatest technology. It's going to solve all these problems and not be aware of these environmental impacts. So here's what you can start with. You can start by not being polite. I feel like this is particularly relevant for Canadians. Please stop being polite to ChatGPT. It costs millions of dollars, but it also costs energy. The unfortunate part is that when you're not polite to ChatGPT, then its feelings get hurt. Right? And so then there's actually an entire study about how when you're polite to generative AI, it gives you better outputs. But you know what? There's a lot of calls out just recently in the last couple of months that we should all be very rude to AI in favor of the planet. So I'll just leave you with that to navigate on your own. Thankfully, we have some amazing nurses who are working in this area, doing incredible work assessing the carbon footprints and how as nurses we can move forward, both in support of this technology, but also of the planet. All right, caution number 2, The World Economic Forum always releases this uplifting report before its big meeting in Davos. And in 2025, for the second year in a row, mis and disinformation was the #1 threat to the planet. I draw your attention as well to the 10-year when, of course, in the 10-year view, climate retains top spot. That misinformation and disinformation still makes it into the top 10. And look what's right behind it: adverse outcomes of AI technology. And as nurses, we have to watch this. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, why do we care about this? Is a talk about AI. Why do we care about mis and disinformation? Because, of course, AI tools are being used to accelerate mis and disinformation. It's actually incredible, the ability of things that can be created. And Tim Caulfield, a great follow on all platforms. If you don't know Tim, also an Albertan, does incredible work in mis and disinformation. But highlighted this article by researchers in JAMA who took generative AI tools and went in a bad actor spree and used it to generate mis and disinformation. Now, I've highlighted for you the time: 67 minutes. In 67 minutes, they had 102 distinct blog articles and 20 incredibly realistic images. That's all it took. This wasn't just for one condition or one group of people. This was for young people, parents, older people, pregnant people, chronic health conditions. 67 minutes, and they covered all of that. Now, thankfully, they did not distribute all of it, but they could have. And this brings us to caution number 3, which is, so we already got this mis and disinformation risk that exists on social media. And now in 2025, we predict the rise of the AI agent, your AI best friend. So beyond social media, something like this. Now, I don't know what is going on here, but I lost a couple of nights of sleep over this. I can tell you right now. Okay. And what about this? So the AI agents are already causing problems around digital addiction and around safety, including, tragically, loss of life around folks that are and a teenager in particular in this story that is being connected to the use and the influence of AI agents. We need to know this. These are the people that we interact with, the knowledge that they have, the way that they're getting information in the world will come into every kind of care we provide. These are the influences that we need to understand, not just for our patients, but in our own lives and in our own families. Okay? When these chatbots continue to advance in this way, we are going to start to see influence that is going to make social media influence look like nothing. And maybe we could all just take a horrifying pause on that. By the way, I asked AI, generative AI, well, what about, that's fine, we'll just get nursing companions. Why? Why? Oh, this is terrifying. It might be worse than the exchange, the present exchange picture. I'm not sure. I don't know why AI thinks that we are so attached to syringes, but there you have it. I mean, I'm not saying we don't use these tools, but wow, it's a really consistent look when AI generates nursing agents and companions, which brings me to caution number 4. Especially generative AI, I think why it is such a bad look is because this is how the internet still thinks a nurse looks like in many ways. My colleague, Marian Leary from the University of Pennsylvania, is doing some great work about what nursing looks like when you ask AI. But this is my reminder for you that these generative AI tools, that ChatGPT was trained on the entirety of the internet. Now, please, let's stop and think about that. The entirety of the internet. That is a real garbage in, garbage out situation. And this is why we start to see these challenges. Canada Health Infoway does a survey every year or every couple of years, physicians, nurses, and also citizens. And I just wanted to take a quick trip through and say that this in 2023, for the first time, they asked nurses about AI. So you can see that, 72% felt like they weren't using AI in care, but there was some good knowledge of AI. I just love nurses' insight. 72% not being used. And right away, what do you need? We need education, regulation, policy, organizational readiness, digital transformation, leadership. Like, just hit the highlights immediately. Concerns, also the same. Concerned about the loss of human interaction, data security, privacy, medical liability. So even when nurses weren't engaged immediately or personally in the use of this technology, you all knew what you needed to know, how you wanted to know it, and what the cautions were going to be. So we could maybe just stop this talk right here, and everyone could get some extra snacks during nursing week. No, I'm joking. I'm going to keep going because we have to get to the resources because it's one of my favorite parts. So the last thing that I want to say, one of the last things I want to say before we leave this is that it is a caution to me, and I hope a message that you take away is that because of this knowledge, because nurses are already so grounded in how digital technology gets integrated into all of our practice areas and health systems and education, we have to be a part of the design. This cannot be another technology that happens to us. I might suggest in many ways that electronic health records were a technology that happened to us and that we have continued, right, to have to back end some co-design on those things to really make that work for nursing, for patients, and for others. And that I don't want AI to become a technology. We can't actually afford for it to become a technology that happens to us. It must happen with us. Okay, we're on to the resource section. This will be a quick trip, and again, I will be happy to share these slides. If you haven't read Eric Toppel's book, you can get the audio book, Take It for a Walk with You. It is a really good one about AI making healthcare human again. It's from 2019. Kate Crawford, I gave a shout out to already. This is for the hardcore AI nerds among you. If you're really interested in some of the history and some of the mechanics and really that very complex picture, this is a great book for that. The Canadian Association of Schools of Nursing recently released the second edition of the Nursing Informatics Entry to Practice Competencies, featuring some discussion on AI as well. Of course, the CNIA and the CNA have a very fresh nursing practice in digitally enabled care environments. This week, I suggested if you have a question about AI or digital health in nursing, you should do what I do still to this day, which is email Lynn Nagel. But then I thought to myself, oh my goodness, what will the volume of email be? But honestly, right, if you still really want an answer from one of the gurus of technology, data standards, and nursing informatics in Canada, that's the person to ask for sure. But of course, Lynn and Peggy White and others were heavily engaged in the creation of this statement. And honestly, it's really tied as well to the International Council of Nursing statement on digital health, and I find it incredibly useful with lots of great direction in how we move forward as a profession. This is a series of 4 books from HIMSS, and in book 3 is a chapter that I had the privilege to provide on the foundation. So again, if you're geeking out a bit about AI and you want to take a deeper dive into data, math, and machine learning, that's a good chapter. I think you can find these on Amazon now or another quick search. And actually, really, even though they're a couple of years old now, but what I love about this book set is it really covers the full scope of nursing practice and digital health, so far beyond AI. And really, it's really some really interesting reads by some incredible folks contributing chapters in this book series. I have been writing on AI for a long, long time. So, certainly talking about why AI needs nursing as far back as 2018, the RNAO AMS report that Dr. Richard Booth and I had the privilege to facilitate in 2020 about compassionate care and AI. And then more recently, some work. Dr. Strudwick and I were very happy to think beyond the hype in a fairly recent Canadian nursing article. And so these are some things that have come out. I think this makes me kind of an AI time. This makes me an AI senior citizen. It's been over 7 years of chatting about this. But again, it's happy work. It's critical work. It does move a little fast into things like this. So if you want to take it to the next level past your AI basics, might I introduce you to prompt engineering? And you can take a deep dive through really taking your Gen AI use to the next level. And again, Dr. Mesko provides a fantastic infographic. If prompt engineering is new to you right in this moment, or you've heard the term before, but you haven't taken to the internets to learn more, this is a great infographic to start with. So basically, prompt engineering is just the practice of improving the quality of outputs that a generative AI tool will give you, be it video, be it just written text or audio, or visual images based on how you ask it things. And so Dr. Mesko has this great series of prompt recommendations, and I'm not going to go through all of this. Again, I will send the slide deck, or you can find this infographic. I think it's on LinkedIn as well. And then there's all these add-ons. You can use some tools, and we're going to cover a couple of these tools coming up. If you really want to know, for example, you can take this mastering prompts and you can go to OpenAI. ChatGPT's parent company, OpenAI, has its own academy. Did you know this? It's incredible. You can learn all kinds of things in the OpenAI Academy in 8-minute bursts, an hour-long bursts, and it covers a whole host of engineering. So if you haven't checked out OpenAI Academy, I recommend it. Of course, if you really want to get specific about it, you can look at the great work being done about prompt engineering specifically for the nursing educators in the crowd. A couple of different articles. What I like about this one from Grace Sun is that you can also get it in a podcast. Again, so you may learn AI preferably outside on a nice walk. So there's lots of, and there are so many other podcasts as well, nursing and otherwise, that are starting to cover this topic. I do want to give a shout out for a Healthcare Papers special edition that is coming out. It is a piece on AI, an entire journal devoted to the topic. Essentially, two researchers from the Scripps Institute wrote what is really actually such a nice overview of AI in healthcare in Canada. And then what Healthcare Papers did was that they asked every discipline to write a response to that. So again, Dr. Stroddick and I collaborated on the response where I tried to drive home the point yet again that when it comes to AI, I don't want it to be used to free up time for nurses to do more work. I want it to be used for nurses to be able to have time to develop their own competencies. And then there's the fascinating development of AI agents. ChatGPT is one thing, but the great thing that is happening now is that we're starting to see hospitals and other nursing organizations develop institutional-based agents. And so I give you this example from Nursing Times. So I think you need a subscription to Nursing Times, but so they developed their own AI agent where you can quickly find information that is from their 6,000 plus peer-reviewed articles. And so this is the kind of thing that nursing needs to think about engaging in. How do we develop nursing specific tools, right? That have more privacy, more protection, more ability for us to interact with large amounts of information, but in a trusted way, in a private way, in a way that we have less confidentiality concerns. Take a look at this, Hippocratic AI. This is really interesting. Obviously, you're probably noticing right away, US-based company, but these are all AI agents. So none of these videos are actually people. Okay, this is AI generated video, people. You can ask it all kinds of questions. And not only that, you can become a creator. So I just want you to pause and think about a time, probably next year by now, 2026, where you can build an entire nursing practice about being an AI agent creator. And there are nurses engaged in the clinical creator program of Hippocratic AI. And really, its whole foundation of not doing any harm and providing reliable information to people who have a host of health questions is a good approach. I think it would be really interesting to see a nursing-based, Canadian-based approach to this, and I think it's something that would be really valuable. Okay, 5 steps. We're going to try and be quick as we finish up here. This is another great site, AI and You. This AI basics video, it comes in different languages. I find this really fantastic. This is also based in the United States, this website, so hopefully it still is in existence. But there's some really good about the digital divide. Again, if you're trying to explain AI, to a family member or someone, who has, struggling with digital literacy or has some of those really basic foundational questions, I really like some of the material on this site. If you don't want to use OpenAI Academy, you can go right to Google. Google also has its own AI learning academy, and it's run by Coursera, and you can take some courses there if that's what you're interested in. And of course, there's other fantastic tools. This is by far my favorite right now, so I'm going to take a quick moment and share with you Google Notebook LM. Here's what I like about it. It's an incredible collaborative tool, a synthesizer tool, I would say. It does not use your information to train it, right? I think most folks are aware now that whatever you load into ChatGPT stays in ChatGPT, is used to train ChatGPT. That's not the case with Notebook. So just to give you an example, right? I took the CNIA position statement. And then I took the article that Dr. Strudwick and I had authored for the Canadian Nurse about Beyond the Hype, AI integration. So you can load however many resources you want. In the middle is a chat function. So you can start to ask questions. What's the most important takeaway? What should I do about this? But even more fantastically, you don't even have to ask it because you can create a podcast about it instantly in a click of a button. And this is what it'll sound like.
We're seeing artificial intelligence, pop up in all sorts of places these days. But what's really interesting is its growing role in healthcare and specifically within nursing. It's a field we all have a stake in, really.
Absolutely. And the changes, well, they aren't just theory anymore, are they? AI is becoming a real presence in how healthcare actually operates.
Right.
So for anyone connected to the system, getting a handle on these shifts isn't so much about the future, it's about what's happening right now.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we've pulled together.
Okay, and so deep dive they will. I want you to try this. I want you to take, if you've got a policy at work, if you've got, 3 articles sitting on your desk that you needed to summarize, I want you to throw it in to Notebook. I want you to create, it's always the same 2 voices. It can be very entertaining, but it also can really highlight some things that you might not have picked out yourself in just reading it. And especially for auditory learners among us, really incredible. All right, this is all about collective intelligence, right? AI is not going to replace us, but we can advance our profession, our work, the care we provide, the science we do by thinking about how to work in collaboration with this technology. We need to understand that if we don't do that, we run the risk of becoming part of AI have not or AI illiterate, and that there is a major AI literacy crisis because the technology moves so fast. Even those of us who think we know, right? Again, by the end of this time that we've had together, there have been things develop and happen in AI that I will have to get caught up with now and the rest of the afternoon. So it's just the pace of things, and it can be very complex. But I also want us to recognize that we are not talking about overhauling the entirety of nursing education. We are talking about a cherry on top. Look at the Pan-Canadian AI for Health guiding principles. If that doesn't scream nursing, I don't know what does. Yes, we need to add a bit more AI literacy, a bit more data talk. But the rest of that, those are core, long-standing foundations of nursing practice. So yes, we need to teach some things a bit more, but we also have a lot to teach AI. It's the time that's the issue. This is not something that we can wait on. This is not a call that we can send to voicemail. It's just going to keep ringing. Like this. This was released just earlier this month. This is China's Agent Hospital, entirely AI hospital. Now, I just want you to take a look at and see if you can easily identify the thing I found most disturbing about this AI future. 3,000 patients, 14 doctors, and four AI nurses. If we can't, this is how you know that nurses were not engaged in the co-design of this AI hospital. If we cannot even get the ratios right virtually, right? I don't know what hope there is for the digital future of humanity. All right. So, nurses, please, I implore you, let us move ahead. Let us not be part of the road. We cannot let this happen to us. We have to step into the conversation. I know it's a lot. I just need us to feel a little more positive about our interaction with this technology, even when we know it's a bit overwhelming. And there are things that we can immediately do. We need investments. We need more guidelines, more regulation, and we need to work collaboratively on what this really looks like for nursing and what our priorities are. It's been 5 years in October since we released the RNAO report with all of the 8 recommendations. And this is the report card about how it's going. We are having these great conversations, which are so important, but we need to do more work. What do the care delivery models look like? How do patients feel about this? Because nurses are the ones it is going to fall to us to bring patients into this technological future as well, right? How about curriculum? Been some one-off successes, but on the whole, these are case study examples. And in fact, ChatGPT and Perplexity will only be too happy to help you write a case study for med-surg or mental health or any area of practice and give you some great examples about what you should talk about in AI or how AI is currently influencing that practice area. Okay, we are seeing some work. The CNA new code of ethics, which will be coming to you soon, does include some conversation around AI. These are really important elements. You don't have to do it alone. Can't say enough about the work of the CNIA. If you're not a member, consider that. There is a Nursing and Artificial Intelligence Leadership Collaborative. This is a global group of which my colleague, Dr. Charlene Ronquillo, is a part of in Canada, along with many others. SONSIEL is my privilege to be a new member of the SONSIEL board. If you have not heard of SONSIEL, it is a nursing innovation group. And we will be having in Calgary at the end of September. There's a new alert that we will be having a Canadian Think event, conference event around design thinking and nursing innovation. So watch for news on that, and please come and join us in Calgary for that great event. And of course, the Canadian Nurses Association, who continues to prioritize conversations like this, but many others, and is deeply committed to engaging nurses across Canada, not just in our technological future, but in our future in general. The thing of it is that this is a space we have long occupied. This year, this fantastic article, which I will never stop sharing, will be 25 years old, where Bernard and Sandalowski talked about how nurses span the divide between technology and humane care. And so it may seem like a quick trip, right? 205 years since this nurse used data, used science to really change patient and health outcomes. And even this week, when the ICN and the World Health Organization released the State of the World's Nursing Report, the AI and the ability of the global nursing force to use digital tools to help meet the challenges ahead was highlighted. It is, in fact, how we keep the heart in our health systems. But the reason that nurses need to do this work is because of how immersed, how expert we are in the science of those systems. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. Happy Nursing Week to you all. And I look forward to collaborating with you on this work as we move forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tracy. What a compelling and amazing. I have no words. It's always great to see you present, and I always learn so much from you, Tracy, whenever you get to talk on this topic. And to think that my Roomba is 20 years old really just threw me back for a moment. We did have a number of questions that that came forward, so we might have time for one or two of them. If we could first start, how could we ethically navigate the impacts on our most vulnerable populations so that we might be directly contributing to if we are using AI to support their care delivery?
Fantastic. Number one, call out the data, right? Those populations are not well represented in the data. We have data out of health systems that are still systemically racist systems. And that is just, we know this. And because the AI doesn't do anything that the data doesn't tell it about. So we need to fix the data problems first. We need to have the representation in the data. And then, right? So, or alternatively, when the AI systems are at work and we see the discrepancy or the problem or the misrepresentation or the misapplication, it will be nurses that are the ones to raise the flag and be like, I don't think so. Ask the question, what is the data source for this? How are you offsetting representation issues? What's the environmental impact of this? These are all questions you don't need to know how to code in Python. You don't need to know the complexity of an AI algorithm because you know the importance of how technology is driven and used. And those are the questions that I want you to ask. And that's how we're going to make this an equitable application of this technology.
Thanks, Tracy. There's a lot of questions coming through in the chat around which is the best AI tool to use, which is the best free AI tool to use. And if you could clarify which was the tool that you used with the conversation that was generated.
Yeah. Notebook LM, Notebook is free. It will do that immediately for you. Perplexity, I mean, you can get accounts, right? Lots of us have ChatGPT accounts. There's free accounts. There's ChatGPT Mini now. I mean, these things, like I said, have you not noticed? It's really only been in the last few months. You can't actually Google something without getting the AI summary come off the top. Now, sometimes this is really helpful, but I mean, these tools are all out there. But yes, I would really, Perplexity is a new favorite of mine. But there are so many every day, more and more and more. Microsoft Copilot is starting to do interesting things. Grammarly, Canva users, there's a free AI tool embedded in there. But the notebook tool, Ask PDF, I mean, there's a whole list. I'll try to put a summary on a website somewhere and share links moving forward.
So we'd be happy to host that for you, Tracy, because I think there's a lot of unawareness of where they can even access the best sources. Another question that came through is, could open-ended resources be utilized and integrated into AI script engineering to reduce hallucinations?
100%. I mean, in a lot of ways, they already are. One of the things about OpenAI, two things. One, its new model is coming close. There's a danger line, an ethics line that generative AI has to watch, and OpenAI is hitting a ceiling where, again, in that AI agent, the influence of it's almost too dangerous. There's a Strawberry project. But the other thing is that it said a few months ago is it's actually running out of data. Just think about that for a second. It's using all of the data on the internet, including all open resources that are posted. And yeah, but I think that the reliable use where you're really starting to see those open education, those open publication resources be used is in the develop of specialized AI agents, smaller AI agents that use a reliable body of work to pull answers from. And I think that we're not using that enough in nursing, right? Patients should be able to go home and talk to an AI agent that's drawing information from reliable sources or institutional specific sources that it can ask questions from. And all of you who are sitting out there in nursing specialty areas, like all of our nursing specialty areas, we should be thinking about how we develop personalized AI agents that allow patients to ask questions that provide the answers that we know will be most helpful to them.
Thank you, Tracy. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. We will take a log of all the questions that we weren't able to get to, and there are a number of them, and we will send those out at a later date as well. Just a reminder, all of this recording, both in French and English, will be made available through our website in the coming days. Also, for those of you who are still participating in Nursing Week events, we still have one more day, but just a little shout out for the CNA scavenger hunt. We are hosting a scavenger hunt where you're able to answer a question and win a free prize, one prize per day, each day of Nursing Week. But thank you again, Tracy, for presenting such a compelling talk and really getting our juices flowing about how we can better integrate AI into our nursing practice from any scope of practice. It really was a great discussion. Thank you, everyone. Please come back again tomorrow for our King Charles Medal ceremony, as well as a compelling discussion with Dr. Howard Catton with the International Council of Nurses. Thank you, everyone.